We all know he is already dead. Despite the pitiful screaming and begging, the thrashing and wailing, my friend is dead. If Baal was not a paradise before, now it is hell. The sun bleached red of the sands, the never-ending heat during the day, the terrible cold during its nights. The endless miles and miles of hard or sandy plateaus. Little life exists on Baal. Only the hardy survive on Baal. Only the faithful survive on Baal. Yet despite its already difficult conditions, it has been worse since the great devourer came to our world. Most of my people, the desert tribes, are dead. Cleared out by Tyranids, or taken as new supplicants to the bosom of the Star Warriors, the blessed Blood Angels. Yet those of us who remain have a harder life than before, much harder. The screaming starts to slow, as my friend's life force diminishes. The pain, we all know, is just as bad. But his will to express it is dying, just as his body is dying, eaten by the one weapon that hit. A horrifying weapon. A Tyranid weapon. The great devourer, the Tyranids, arrived. We do not know how or why they were permitted to do this by our lords, but we know the Blood Angels would have done all they could to forestall their advent. Yet even they could not prevent the coming of the bugs. Nor could they prevent their predations of our people, our world. Despite the back of the enemy being broken, the Hive fleet destroyed, still, they are not fully swept from our lands, our home. They stalk the fringes of our society, hunting us, taking any who wander alone or unguarded. So we hunt them. But there is no sport in it. For even the small Tyranids are lethality clothed in flesh. Their claws punch through even the armor of our warlords, the Blood Angels, and they are fast. But these ones we herd and corral and slaughter, and they are not clever. So they die when we find them. If they find us first, of course, things are different. Many a hunting party has fallen foul of the clawed ones, the Hormagaunts, and then been wiped out. But they are not as cunning, as stealthy, or as slippery as the less aggressive ones, the Termagants. A Hormagaunt will charge at any provocation. A Termagant will stalk and flee, hiding away in caves and crannies, making it a difficulty to hunt. But it is their methods of killing that differ the most. A Hormagaunt will charge you and rip you to pieces in moments. Swift. Unpleasant in the extreme, but swift. The Termagants. They fire gun-like weapons, but it is what they fire that is the fear. They're flesh borers. Their guns fire tiny bugs that fly at you. If they hit you, or anything, they will bore into it, eating and cutting and biting and tearing, burrowing into the flesh. It is a horror none would wish on even their enemy tribes. We were careful. We were quiet. We took 5 of them by surprise and butchered them, our projectile weapons popping them, or las gun lines cutting straight through them. Only one actually fired, but it was enough. Tobin was hit in the stomach, and instantly we knew he was dead. We used to try digging them out of the flesh, but that had never saved anyone, so all that was left was to say goodbye. Why did we not instantly save him from the pain? Why did we not shoot him immediately in the head and give him the Emperor's peace? As our reality has changed, so has our culture. We do not end it swiftly if there are youths present. They must know what is the cost of 1 second, just one moment of distraction. Death. But also, it is to give our tribesmen the chance to say their final words. Few can do anything but scream when the borer takes hold, but some do. They speak of their life or their loves, and we take their final messages back to their family. back to their life, their loved ones. It is all we can do to honour them. Once I asked the ealdorman, why? Why has this happened? Why has Baal become even harder? Does the Emperor hate us this much? To have us hunted like this? But his reply ended my rebellion. The Imperium requires warriors of such daring, such endurance, such skill, that life on Baal, as hard as it was, had become too easy. The Tyranids, the danger, the hate they create within our hearts, is what is now required for the mighty Blood Angels to continue to victory. The Tyranid infestation is not a curse. It is a gift. It is another test. We must pass it every day if our stock is to prove strong enough for the challenge the Blood Angels face. We will not prove less to this challenge than any other posed. For if we fail, the Blood Angels fail. And if they fail, then all of Imperium Nihilus will surely follow too. Welcome, gentle listener. I am Baldermort, your faithful servant, and I wish to introduce you to the forces, factions, and war gear of the Warhammer 40k universe, aptly dubbed the Grim Dark. You may think to yourselves, Termagants, Hormagaunts, silly old boulders. These are warriors, units, not war gear. Alas, this is not the case. Both these and most other Tyranid beasts are created, blurted forth by the Norn queens of their Hive fleets, in mass numbers as pure unadulterated cannon fodder. They are not independent beings by nature, and only the overwhelming power of the hive mind through its synapse is what drives them onwards. Make no mistake, these beings are weapons, and only weapons. Now, for the basics, let us lean on existing wisdom. To quote, Gaunts. Termagants and Hormagaunts are simple bioforms created by the hive fleets in their billions. Onslaughts by these creatures often precede the main attack, wave after wave hurling themselves against enemy lines like an avalanche of teeth, claws, and bioweapon fire. Termagants. Termagants are fast, agile, and cunning creatures. They are amongst the smallest of the Hive world's warriors, little more than 2 meters from head to tail, having originally been created to roam the arterial passages of bioships in search of intruders. In planetary invasions, Termagants accompany Tyranid warriors, scuttling forwards on 4 legs while unleashing torrents of fire from their anti-personnel bioweaponry, commonly flesh borers, clutched in their clawed forelimbs. There is a strange affinity between Termagants and Tyranid warriors that goes beyond the usual unifying influence of the hive mind. The diminutive Termagants react instantly to any enemy that threatens their larger kin, drowning the foe in overwhelming numbers of squirming bodies before they have a chance to react. Whether this is an instinctive response, or it speaks to something deeper, is a mystery. But given the Tyranid warrior's importance in maintaining the hive mind's control, its efficacy cannot be denied. Bereft of a Hormagaunt's instinctive ferocity or wiry strength, a Hormagaunt might be considered an unremarkable opponent by many of the galaxy's warring races, yet this would be a foolish assumption. Where the Hormagaunt is instinctively vicious and easily baited into a trap, a Termagant's cunning is honed by a desire for self-preservation, and it will commonly find a way to circumvent a potential ambush and assail the foe from an unexpected quarter. So it is that a combined assault of both Hormagaunts and Termagants is a deadly combination. The enemy can ill afford to ignore either group, but will be hard-pressed to prepare a defense that will thwart both. The Hormagaunts will overwhelm all but the strongest position, while the Termagants will uncannily seek out and exploit any trace of weakness. Of course, there are times when a Tyranid assault requires that Termagants are thrown directly at the foe's lines, forcing the defenders to expend vast amounts of ammunition to hold back a tide of alien bodies. This is far from an exceptional tactic. It is simply part of the Termagant's role. On such occasions, the hive mind simply suppresses the Termagant's survival instincts and sends them forward to die in droves until ammo stores are depleted and victory is assured. A Termagant's mind is vicious but simplistic, and if separated from the hive mind's influence, is apt to become confused. On such occasions, the creature's self-preservation instincts take over, and it abandons the fight in search of shelter. So it is that an army that has driven off a Tyranid assault must proceed with great care. Every shadowed cave, tumbled ruin, or patch of tangled undergrowth could conceal a nest of fugitive Termagants that will fight with incredible determination upon discovery. Hormagaunts. The Hormagaunt is a highly specialized iteration of the Termagant bioform, and one that is utilized by the Tyranid Hive fleet in its billions. Each Hormagaunt has 4 razor-sharp claws specifically designed for ripping and piercing flesh and armor alike. The Hormagaunt also has powerful hind legs that drive it after its prey in a series of bounding leaps, giving the creature a skittering, insect-like gait. The Hormagaunt is an extraordinarily single-minded creature and will pursue its victims without pause, ignoring injury and tiredness until it has run its quarry down and torn it apart with frenzied strikes of its scythe-like forelimbs. Upon making a kill, a Hormagaunt will hungrily feed upon its prey's remains, tearing chunks of bloody flesh from the slaughtered corpse with razor-sharp teeth. Such a gruesome feast seldom lasts long, for the Hormagaunt's hyper-accelerated metabolism drives it to constantly seek and gorge itself on fresh prey. Onslaughts by Hormagaunt swarms often precede the main thrust of a Tyranid attack, for they have fearsome hunting instincts and require little direction from the hive mind. Once the assault begins, they are mostly left to their own devices. On occasion, the hive mind will make contact with the Hormagaunt's quicksilver consciousness, spurring it towards a more distant and more strategically important foe. But such situations are not commonplace. Hormagaunts are completely expendable, and the hive mind treats them as such. Hormagaunts are often dropped onto a prey planet in tyrannocyte spores. It matters not if most of these pods are destroyed by orbital defense emplacements before they even make planetfall. For if even a single spore's worth of Hormagaunts reaches the surface, it can swiftly develop into a serious problem for the prey world's defenders. From the moment they have landed, the Hormagaunts rove the landscape in sweeping nightmare flocks, constantly seeking out and attacking the native life forms. Furthermore, unlike most other Tyranid bioforms, Hormagaunts are able to reproduce independently and lay hundreds of eggs just below the surface of a planet before their short hyperactive lifespan is over. No sooner has one wave of the creatures been exterminated than a fresh swarm has hatched and grown to maturity, ready to ravage the planet in the previous generation's stead. By the time the bulk of the Hive fleet arrives, the defenders are already on the defensive, trapped behind fortress walls as a writhing sea of Hormagaunts rages back and forth across the planet. Flesh borer weapons. The flesh borer is a compact brood nest for sharp-fanged borer beetles. When the weapon is fired, a frenzied borer beetle will hurtle itself forward with a single click of its flea-like legs. The beetle then spends its remaining life energy in a few seconds, frantically boring through the armor, flesh, and bone of the first thing in its path. Not only does such a weapon inspire great fear and revulsion in the enemy, but the nature of its biological ammunition means that the flesh borer can be easily adapted by the Hive fleet counter-specific defenses. Broad arrow-shaped beetles are particularly effective at punching through armor, while the bulging thorax of the scorch bug is filled with a volatile blend of caustic chemicals that ignites upon impact, setting its target's armor and flesh ablaze. The bizarre screamer beetle is designed purely to sow terror and confusion amongst the enemy's ranks, unleashing an ear-splitting shriek as it is propelled through the air at high speed. Mass salvos of screamer beetles give rise to a nightmarish cacophony that is enough to shred the nerves of all but the most grizzled warriors, a phenomenon first recorded by the Eldrai of the craft world Iandan during the invasion of Hive Fleet Kraken. End quote. Gaunts. Both Hormagaunts and Termagants are brilliant little models. Alone, they are good. As a huge unit charging across the open board, they are magnificent. The simplicity of their design is still detailed enough to make them a feast for the eye. But one must also know one more thing about them before embarking on the construction of a Tyranid army. For both Hormagaunts and Termagants, you may have, in quite a number, the dreaded practice of batch painting. For these beings are hilarious when used in numbers, but do require real tenacity to cover in glorious colour. Oh, but when this is done, when all of the little monsters have been built, prepared and painted, the rewards are endless. To see hordes of these nasty little beings coming across the board is a joy to perform or to play against. Can they hit my lines before I wipe them out? For they die easily enough, yet their impact can turn battles for Hormagaunts, or their withering fire, death by truck of dice, can make any elite army blanch via Termagants. But more than this, they are simply fun. I challenge anyone, take out a narrative game and play Endless Tide, and to not thoroughly enjoy the experience. Whenever a unit is removed, you just set it up again at the beginning of your next turn, in this way simulating a never-ending onslaught of Tyranids without the requirement to actually own and prepare hundreds of models. If you haven't tried it, you are definitely missing out, and that, truth be told, is the essence of Warhammer, as I keep stating. Fun. So let the fun and camaraderie flow. Play a Nid army, or against one, and have the time of your life. I have been Baldermort, your faithful servant. I hope you have enjoyed my very brief introduction to the Termagant and Hormagaunt. If so, then please do consider liking and subscribing. If you do, then also consider pressing the notifications button, as I would not want you to miss out. Now, no matter what you do today, do try to make some time for fun. Toodaloo.